Thank you, Diane. Thank you for that introduction. I'd like to plead guilty to at least part of those nice things you said about me. I want to thank you for giving me an opportunity to participate in this webinar. So the topic is judging challenge classes and collections. This is an entry of D. Bennett that I made several years ago. It was a winning entry. It is just that as an introduction. Before I dive into it, I want to give appropriate credits to everybody. I sent a request for some photographs to some of my friends, and I was gifted with lots of pictures. So that I won't forget anybody, I want to give credit right now. I thank Waldo Villegas, Robert Martin and his pictures that came through Suzanne Horn, Donna Martin. I want to thank Suzanne Horn, Kitty Melendez, Cindy Dale, and Ray Gulib. This, however, presents a little bit of an issue. And what is that issue? This is a judging seminar, so obviously you have to judge those photographs. So judging for this purpose of this discussion includes both noting all the good features of it and what features could have been possibly improved. So please don't think I'm criticizing your wonderful pictures that you sent me. It's part and parcel of the game. And again, it's nothing personal. We are not talking about an exhibitor or a judge. We're talking about only the rose and the roses in front of us. I want to also make a special acknowledgement. I want to honor Bruce Monroe and Robert Martin, although he is no more, because these two gentlemen have contributed more than anybody else in this rose world, dedicating about 40 years of their lives, and roses are very much an integral part of their lives. And Bruce has done so much work on judging, and without mentioning him, honoring him, the lecture just won't go well. So when we talk about challenge classes, what is the challenge? It applies to the exhibitors. We're challenging the exhibitor to, for example, do a Horace McFarlane entry by saying, bring 7 hybrid teas, all in perfect exhibition stage, each a different variety, matching in size, good color combination, excellent stem and foliage. This is what the challenge means. However, occasionally the judges may feel the assignment challenging. Now, Jesse Ann did a wonderful job of going through the 6 elements of judging. So there is not much more left to say about it. However, a few words about what a specimen means. It could be 1 bloom per stem. It could be 1 spray. 1 bloom without stem and foliage for those classes that may call for blooms without stems and foliage. Examples of that class, those classes would be pages, a rose bowl or roses in a bowl, so on and so forth. Now people use these terms, challenge classes and collections, quite interchangeably, but there's a difference. Challenge classes may have a collection or a single specimen. All collections are not challenge classes. The schedule writers must be aware that there is a difference in how the challenge classes and the collections are judged. And here are the essential differences. A challenge class entry may not be moved except by the exhibitor or with permission from the exhibitor once the exhibitor has placed it. And that particular statement gives me a little bit of heartburn, because if the exhibitor has placed it, it's not right to say, hey, you're busy with that, can I move your specimens here to make room for another person? He's likely to say, yes, go ahead. But we can't get it looking the same as he had it. Only exception may be if you have an entry like D. Bennett, it's a single ball, you might move it. Even then, how it is facing the judges from the judging side, a 10-degree tilt on turn on this side or that side might make a big difference to the exhibit. A judge should be aware whether an entry is a challenge class or not. A collection that is not challenge class may have been moved by someone other than the exhibitor. Therefore, It must be judged on horticultural excellence alone. A collection has two or more blooms, obviously, by definition. So what do we do when in doubt? Just ask the show committee or the show chairman and get the answer. Now, class is calling for multiple specimens in individual containers. This happens to be the bulk of challenge classes, at least in the national conventions. And here are the examples. It may be national and district Horace McFarland entry, the Nicholson Bowl, Joseph J. Kern, Anne Riley, Alan Kirk, J.J. Kern, Ralph Moore, Bernardella, and Griffith Buck. And there are Top Gun and some others that I have not mentioned here. Multiple specimens in individual containers. Unless mandated by the schedule, the entry may be staged in any formation of the exhibitor's choice. This affords an exhibitor an opportunity to show his staging talents, but judges determine the overall appearance, whether it is good, whether it made the entry better or not. So let's start with Nicholson Bowl, 2018 entry that won by Miss Belendez. This was in California. This is one of the best entries that I've ever seen. All blooms are perfect exhibition stage. They're all perfect matching sizes, excellent stem and foliage. I couldn't pick anything that could have been improved in this entry, but I will try because I'm an exhibitor and a judge. You could pull down this petal just a little bit more because this one looks like a little bit tight bud compared to the rest, but this is one of the finest entries that I've ever seen. There are other gentlemen that used to put in Nicholson balls that I would die to be able to make one of those. Cal Hayes is one of those. John Hefner is another. Ken Borman is another. All excellent exhibitors. There are many, many of these entries, but unfortunately, I don't have access to those pictures. This is the Griffith Buck Challenge, which calls for 3 shrubs, 1 bloom per stem, or 3 sprays, different varieties labeled correctly. Fortunately for me, the Van Lentons did a good job of discussing how to judge shrubs and polyanthus and whatever those roses might be. So I get a free pass on that. Herb Swim, again a Kitty Belendez entry. Wonderful, 5 hybrid teas. Perfectly matching, individual containers and individual labels. Excellent color combination. Here is an excellent entry of Horace McFarland by Lynn. What I like about this entry is all blooms are same exhibition stage. Number 1, number 2, all are same size except this one is marginally smaller. And then same stage of openness. If there are 4 or 5 entries all looking this good, then maybe I would be nitpicking with this orange color here, which I suspect is rust on the opposite side of the leaves. But judging should be always positive, looking for beauty in an entry and not looking for faults like this. But that might come into consideration if there are 2 or more entries that are good blooms. National Horace McFarland. This is Satish's entry. This one won in California. I would say right offhand, it's much tighter bloom here. Here, I would like to go to Bruce Monroe and what is said. It was not like that when we judged it. What do I mean? There were Q-tips crammed into these 2 roses. They were holding pretty good open position until they finished judging. But after that, they popped back into their less than exhibition stage. There is also another interesting story about this exhibit for which we don't have time now, but if somebody asks me at the end, I might go into it. It might take a minute or 2. National Horace McFarland entry, Kitty Belendez. Look at that once again. 7 outstanding roses, matching specimens, perfect staging, and same stage of openness, everything. Couldn't find any fault with that one. Perfect and perfect. Top Gun, Winston-Salem, 2013. This belongs to Satish. I'm extremely proud of this entry. There are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8 reasons for that. To start with, this was early September show when we are not supposed to have roses in Columbia, South Carolina. That is number one. Number two, Vijaya couldn't come to the show because her mom was with us in her final months or weeks, and she needed 24/7 care. And I didn't know without a supervisor close by me all the time whether I could put in a nice entry or not, and I was able to. Number three, this was the entry, or this was the national challenge class that I won, number 62, that gave me a tie with the then leaders with 62. There are many other reasons, but we won't go into those. And here is an entry of the Top Gun at the same show. Again, this was my winning entry with 18 blooms. I'm also very proud of this. And Craig Dorschel has this in one of his presentations. And he said, Vijaya is an outstanding exhibitor, so Satish had an advantage. But I never had a chance to tell him at this show. Vijaya was at home. She was not even at the show. So you can see how all these roses are perfect exhibition stage, matching size. They have everything desirable. I'm sure if you examine closely, you can find some faults in that. Let me go back to the slide before this one more time, because I want to discuss the presentation on that one. Now, when somebody puts in the roses in this formation, semicircle, the exhibitor is saying, he's telling the judges, look all you want. My stems are perfect, foliage is perfect. You can't find any fault. I have nothing to hide. But if you make the same entry as 4 in the last row, 3 in the next row, 2 in the first row, you can hide any loss of foliage. One entry, one of these specimens may not have a leaf, or another one might have a small leaf or crinkled leaf or whatever. You can hide those by clumping them together. Also, it makes it harder for the judges to look at all the tags. But this is when the exhibitor says, I'm very confident with my entry. You can look at it whatever way you want. Moving on, Top Gun Miss Kitty, outstanding colors. But you'll have to forgive me for saying there is only one that's in really good exhibition stage here. Tighter, 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 tight bud, tight bud. But I think this is how they may be showing in on the West Coast. I don't know, but this is an outstanding entry. It won that one at that show. Top Gun by Ray Gullible in Shreveport, Louisiana, I believe. Good exhibition stages. I probably would have put this rose, which is bigger, behind here in the middle, because this is attracting, drawing attention. Biggest rose, also saying I'm a little bit bigger than the rest. But collections like this call for all same size rather than one bigger. So if I have a big rose, even if it's an excellent one, I'd probably try to hide it just a little bit. Top Gun by Andrew Hearn in 2011. This one arguably is the very best of all national Top Guns that ever were, at least in my opinion. You can look at every single rose here. Very, very hard to find 12 mini floras looking that good. This one is slightly smaller, but still, this I think is the best that I have ever seen. I'm sure you've seen better. Ralph Moore at Wisconsin by Ray Gullible. I don't know how many entries were there. Typically, at least until recently, we used to show these Ralph Moore and other 7 blooms or 9 blooms in a collection with all solids and not include them. There were a lot of judges that hated them. The guidelines are silent about it. And there's a reason, because these came to the market very recently and they're getting popular. I don't know what the future holds. But personally, I don't think a lot of these will have form like this rose, for example. But time will tell. Earl of Warwick. This used to be 6 ARS hybrid teas for 40 years. Then some very bright individuals on West Coast figured out the schedule never said HT or hybrid tea, and they came up with this idea of putting uh, floribundas and climbers or whatever else it is, as long as it is ARS, it is fair game. And I think with this change, I believe they won 2 ARS Earl of Warwick in a row, because for the rest of us slow guys, it took us 2 years to get a few more ARS floribundas, and then after that, I started winning it again. Here we go, Joseph J. Kern, Old Garden Roses. Calls for 5 Old Garden Rose specimens, either single, one bloom per stem, or spray, and I believe species are allowed. I believe we have won them about 7 times. Joseph J. Kern, another entry, also of Satish Prabhu. Souvenir de la Malmaison, Sidoni, see, Yolanda de Aragon, and Baron Prévost and Queen Rose. Another J.J. Kern, looks very similar. Reminds me of a story when Mr. Smith, eighth grade teacher, tells Johnny, outstanding essay, young man, on your pet dog. But I pulled up your brother's from last year. The essay is word for word, exactly the same on what's the story. And Johnny says, Mr. Smith, it's the same dog, sir. Here we go. Joseph J. Kern, one more entry, and we move on to Floribunda challenges. This is not a national, of course, this is a district one. Must have been outstanding, like Bruce Monroe says. It was not looking like that while we judged it. I'm making that comment because those of you that grow Sexy Rexy know that it's a bright pink, looking more like this or more like this. These look like they are very well faded in color, may have to do with refrigeration or the age, I don't know. But however, the sprays themselves are quite excellent. Polyantha spray, thank you Van Lentons. I don't have to go into details with this. However, we have 2 sneezy and a grumpy, I believe that's what they are. Phoenix Rose Society Challenge, Love Song by Donna Martin. Beautiful entry. People always discuss what the stem length should be. It should not be so long that the heavy weight of the spray makes it nod. And it's not necessary that you have to have 2 5-leaflet leaves at the beginning like the old guideline said. So anything that looks reasonably balanced will carry the day. Phoenix Rose Society Challenge, fabulous. This is really a fabulous rose, fabulous sprays, and a fabulous entry. I suspect this belongs to either Suzanne Horn or Robert Martin or Donna Martin. I'm not sure which one, but it came from West Coast, no doubt. ARS Griffith Buck Challenge. I believe this is by Suzanne Horn. This was in California at a national. She won it. That was the only one of the 11 entries that I put in that I did not win. She won it. And then she went on to give a presentation of 45 minutes on how to judge shrub roses. Thank you, Suzanne. Albuquerque, New Mexico. If you look at this, these look like very fresh roses. They were probably never frozen. They just love to see things like this. So do I. All the exhibitors love them too. Another collection of 3 shrubs here. Heathcliff, Fairbianca, and the Squire. These are all David Austin roses. Let's talk about entry types for a minute. For an entry that calls for multiple specimens in one container, all varieties may be listed on a card in addition to the entry tag. Multiple specimens, each placed in individual container, must have an entry tag. Multiple specimens in individual containers, if of the same variety, may have only one tag, but this creates a little bit of confusion because last minute, when it is 10 minutes to closing entry, people are pulling on your sleeves and saying, hey, I put 1 tag, is this okay? Hey, should I put 3 tags? I put 3 tags, is this too much? I think in time, we can eliminate all these choices and make it just one choice. Put 3 tags or put 1 tag, doesn't matter, but let it be one. Spare the exhibitors of this pain at the last minute. Using challenge class tags is optional for the exhibitor. Okay, why did we take the trouble to design them, print them, put them out there? Now we say use it if you want to, don't use it if you want to. So in the first few years, I remember it was the rage. People came and made you remove the regular tags and made you put challenge class tags. We didn't seem to know if all those big tags have to be on each individual container and so on. I think that is something that we can address. It's worth revisiting. Maybe do away with them altogether. An entry may not be disqualified because a challenge class entry tag was not used. So we're saying it right there. So why go with the trouble? Mini-flora combinations. Show committee has the option to include miniatures and mini-floras in the same entry. Such an entry will not be eligible to receive any ARS certificates. Why? Because we have not yet thought about it. In future, it may happen. Challenge class scorecard. This one says horticultural excellence counts for 80 points. It says it is of paramount importance. It is most important, so on and so forth. I agree. It's a horticultural challenge class. So horticultural excellence is the most important. And it's actually a new thing, new to me because it's been going on for about 20 years. Before that, I was in exhibiting roses for 20 more years. At that time, we were made to put challenge class entry like Horace McFarland or Earl of Warwick in straight line, soldier style, back to front, tallest in the back, shortest in the front, single file. Everybody did it. So we could get 8, 9, or 10 entries on a table to save space. Then some people who are really good at arrangement said, let's introduce elements of arrangement into these challenge classes, even if it's horticulture. And we gave it 20 points for overall appearance. But it says here, each specimen is judged using the prime elements of judging applicable to the type of rose. I've been reading all judging manuals almost every year for years and years. It's not very, very clear. It doesn't say it, but if you're going to use every specimen using the prime elements of judging, the way I understand it, a challenge class like Horace McFarland should have all 7 specimens, each of which is worthy of at least a pale Carolina blue ribbon. If 1 or 2 of those specimens are worthy only of red ribbon, and there are other entries in which every single specimen is of a blue ribbon quality, then this one should not be allowed to win because this has a better overall appearance, because this is a horticultural challenge class. On the other hand, if it's the only entry, okay, that's fine. 1 specimen challenge class, frequently not limited to any particular type of stage, may call for particular variety, type, or class. Praise may be permitted. Each specimen is judged according to its standard. Because there's only 1 specimen, overall appearance is not a consideration. Stages of bloom may not be restricted to HTs. Rose of any class that has an exhibition form may be eligible. However, as a practical matter, schedules will say Floribunda, cycle of bloom, or hybrid tea, cycle of bloom, mini flora, cycle of bloom, or miniature cycle of bloom. Stages of bloom has 3 specimens. The first one is pre-exhibition stage or the bud stage, which has to be more than just a bud showing color. First 2 petals have to start unfurling. All the sepals must be down, but it must not be advanced so much that it is close to exhibition stage. Exhibition stage does not need any description here. Fully open, the petals must be unfurled completely, not opened by a crowbar, not opened by cotton balls, not opened by Q-tip, but naturally unfurled, and that's the difference. And they must show fresh stamens. This is an example, that one in Wisconsin. There's one more, that one in Atlanta, and I have one with Louis Estes at 3 different nationals. And you can see the innermost petals are convex, and that means it's naturally unfurled, not plucked to make it look like a tube. This is Let Freedom Ring. It's not on the table yet. Diane said, I don't have, when I told her I don't have pictures, why don't you go to your garden and cut the blooms and make an entry? I thought that was a pretty good idea, but it takes a lot of time. Here is a pretty good entry. Those of you who know and grow this rose Gemini will know that this bud always starts out as pink in color, but after exposure to sunlight, it'll take on these copper tones. So this is normal, this is normal. All these came from the same plant, cut on the same day. So if the judge doesn't grow this and not very familiar, he might say there is some color discrepancy here. There really isn't. Same rose here. I want to show one more picture to show that this was not looking facing you. It is really looking up properly. It's just the way the picture is made to see the stamens there. You can see here, this is how they are all looking straight up. Stems are probably too long. Another good example of full bloom, you can see outermost petals. None of them have been plucked. They're all very fresh, excellent stamen. Innermost petals are convex. Stamens are fresh and showing. Matched pair schedule must specify 1 or 2 containers. Unless specified in the schedule, any type and stage of rose may be used. Horticultural excellence is 80%. Merit is awarded to uniformity in size, color, degree of opening, and form of the blooms, uniformity in stem length, balance and proportion, and overall appearance. Multiple specimens in one container. Schedule may specify containers supplied by the show committee or by the exhibitor. Again, all these choices of do this or do that must be eliminated. Only thing I can think of is the show committee said we'll give you 4 containers for 4 exhibitors. 6 people show up with entries. Now what do? We say, okay, use your own container. So why don't we be just silent? You can show them the container, use this if you want to, otherwise use your own. May specify limit on the number of blooms of the same variety, may specify minimum number of varieties, may specify total number of blooms, all of those. Multiple sprays in one container, it says each spray must be individually judged using the criteria for judging sprays. But I submit to you that if there are 3 sprays of floribundas in the same container with short stems, it's very hard or impossible to judge each individual spray separately because they're all entwined and tangled with each other. Old garden rose bouquets, large variation between size and form between varieties. So they're shown tighter because most OGRs have shorter stems. Blooms packed in tightly should be penalized. Bouquet must show a harmonious and complementary combination of colors. Dorothy Stemler Award, it's the national. It's one of my favorite. For 25 years, no, actually 30 years, I've seen it presented like this in a large bowl like that, many varieties, very fragrant roses, all fresh, presented in a beautiful form. Forgive me for saying this is my own entry, but I'm just looking at the entry, forget the exhibitor. But it's really good. And I've seen much better than this in years before when I didn't used to show old garden roses. I don't know where all those exhibitors went. And here is the thing. Joseph J. Kahn Trophy, which was 5 individual blooms or sprays in 5 containers I talked about earlier. We showed several pictures. For best collection of 5 garden roses, including species, each different varieties, each in separate vases and properly labeled. Dorothy Stemler Memorial Award, on the other hand, was created for the purpose of encouraging, growing, and showing old garden roses. Grow many old garden roses. Show many old garden roses. Make it a very fragrant bouquet. So the marks given is somewhat different than standard horticulture. Here we have cultural perfection 30 instead of 80. Condition, you can construe this as going with that 30, but look at the other 50. 20 of that is number of varieties. They're encouraging you to put many varieties. Effect, fragrance. Okay, so what happened? 1 year we were told you can no longer do that. Now the new schedule says just 8 stems. That's it. 8 stems of old garden roses. No mention of credit for variety. So if it is 1 variety or 8 variety, it doesn't matter. In the previous writing, if you had 8 varieties instead of 4 varieties, 8 stems, you'd get credit for varieties. Now that's gone. Fragrance is gone. Presumably this was done to make the playing field level. So those with fewer varieties grown in their garden can still compete with this. I don't see why they can't compete with this, because you can have as many stems as you want. They don't have to be all separate varieties. And the other thing is, we say we'll monitor these changes and see the effect. And I have plenty of data on this. Since it was changed, only one exhibitor has won all these entries. No new people have. That's about 4 or 5 years in a row. No new exhibitors of one who grows only 8 stems or 8 varieties has come to compete or win this one. So we probably is another 8 stem, limited to 8 stem, another limited to 8 stem entry, another limited to 8 stem entry, all by the same exhibitor. Joseph Jacob was already there. If you had only 5 old garden roses, you could compete for it. There's plenty of opportunity for one with 5 roses to do this. If you had only 2, you had the opportunity to win the Dowager Queen and the Victorian Award. So although it might have been a good intent, good-hearted change, the result hasn't been any different. All it did was limit somebody who could put in a lot of beautiful roses, make a beautiful entry. It is restricted now. So is it time to revisit Dorothy Stemler? I think so. I won't be entering it anymore, but for the future old garden rose growers, it would be excellent to go back to the original so they have an opportunity to do what they do best. G. Bennett entry, Suzanne, wow. Dancing Flame. This is one of the very best I have ever seen. I won it several times. None came even close to this. Beautiful roses, perfectly matching, outstanding color, foliage, uniform distance between the roses, nothing touching one another. I could go on and on and on, but the program is short. We're coming to the end. This is another G. Bennett mine. Look at that. If these two are put together, there's no question what judges would pick in exactly 30 seconds. G. Bennett at Wisconsin by Ray Galibu. Pretty good. All mostly exhibition stages. Good staging. Hamseville. I apologize for this poor slide because I took a picture of a picture and put it there. Came out looking very bad, but like Bruce Monroe said, this didn't look like it when we judged. Hamseville District by Miss Kitty. Again, her entries tend to be really colorful. But again, you can see if there is another entry with everything on exhibition stage, probably judges would find it hard to judge. Ray Galibu again, Hamseville in Wisconsin. Beautiful entry. This is the one I showed earlier at Winston-Salem by Satish. G. Bennett District, Miss Kitty. I think this is slowly becoming fashion, showing striped roses, but I still submit to you that these don't usually have the good exhibition form like you see here. They just don't have it. So in time, these may supplant the good exhibition roses, but right now, if this one was here, these two were together. If I were to judge, even if it is my own entry, I would have still picked this one for the reasons I explained. Hamseville by John Hefner. This is in Tennessee. Good entry. Here, these are pretty good exhibition stage. It's a little bit flatter, but this goes there pretty well. An outstanding entry. I was going to have a little bit fun with it, but Suzanne Hahn shot me and said, just keep quiet. Outstanding entry. This is Suzanne Hahn's roses, photo by Donna Martin. All shrubs, 1 bloom per stack. It says 9 blooms or more. I thought it says 12, and I was going to tell you all to say ooh, say ah, say how beautiful. Now pay attention. Unos, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, seis, siete, ocho, nueve. There are 13. But it was not an error. It says 9 or more. 13 is fine. High-low calls for 2 specimens. A larger rose and a smaller rose, matching color form degree of opening. Balance and proportion, 80-20% rules apply. Rose in a bowl. Term floating must be avoided because you can have a longer stem that can be used to center the rose properly. Roses in a bowl, Marietta by Kitty Belendez. Ultimate Pink, it is more or less in the center of the bowl. Excellent rose. Ambridge Rose by Kitty Belendez. Multiple blooms in a bowl. Roses in a frame. I'm trying to conserve time here. Roses in a frame calls for 1 bloom in a frame. Foliage is allowed. Must be shown below the bloom. Overall appearance considers how the bloom fills the frame and position of the bloom in the frame, so on and so forth. Here, I thought this is supposed to stay, foliage is supposed to stay within the frame, but maybe I'm wrong. Excellent entry by Cindy Dale. Perfect positioning here. Beautiful exhibition stage bloom. I think she had a lot of those hot princes on that day. English box typically have 2 rows of 3 roses. And you can have blooms of 9, 12, 18, or 24, so on and so forth. Box of 9 is called an American box. It could be for large roses, any type, hybrid tree, grandiflora, OGR. Also have them for miniature and mini flora. Another outstanding entry. All exhibition stage, beautiful, flawless color and substance. English box, HT, when your roses are very big, they'll be crashing into each other. And I know why this happens. This one is left because I was on the next table while she was doing it. If you're throwing in 10 national challenge classes in 2.5 hours, it's about 10 minutes, another national challenge class going in. And then you're throwing these roses in literally as fast as you can, which is why we don't have time to do that. Painter's palette, 5 or 7 blooms, can show in any stage when not specified, maybe HT, Floribunda, OGR, mini, or mini flora, or mini and mini floras as specified. So the judge must read the schedule carefully, what it says. Here's a beautiful example of Artist Palette by Cindy Dale. Artist Palette by Cindy Dale again of open blooms. Artist Palette HTs by Miss Kitty, outstanding exhibition stage blooms. ARS Challenge Class and Collection Certificates. Each show may award 1 certificate for the best English box. No matter how many classes are there for English box, only 1 certificate. May award a certificate for the best miniature English box. Certain shows may restrict entries only to the local society, in which case you won't get an American Rose Society certificate.
So can you make her a presenter?
I will do that.
As I think many of you know, we actually have our annual Rose calendar. If you've not had the opportunity to look at one of these calendars or to purchase it, you might want to do that. I asked Lois Ann, who I'm going to introduce in a moment, to take this into the front of her program. And this is a beautiful photo of Pretty in Pink Eden. This photo was taken and submitted by Gretchen Humphrey. I don't think she's on the call tonight, but I did want to congratulate her on making the cover of the American Rose Society calendar for 2024. I typically buy a dozen of these or so. I give them out to a bunch of people. And when I visit them, I see, beautiful roses posted on their calendars. I use mine actually in my workroom to keep track of all those things I'm doing in the garden. And again, I hope that you will participate and support the calendar. You can buy it now on the shop on rose.org. And again, it's a beautiful calendar, and there are, I think it's over 100 photos from people that submitted photos. And in fact, many of the people on this call may have a photo in this calendar, may not know it yet. I don't think the announcement has quite yet gone out. And along with that, we also are still doing our, we have our competition for photography, our digital photograph competition that is ongoing through November 5th. So if you have not entered yet, please review. You can review the rules and the guidelines and the classes online or in the magazine, and then enter your photographs. I mean, I see all the beautiful photographs that people post on Facebook. Here's an opportunity to play with those photographs, share them with other people. It's a lot of fun, and we encourage your participation in the national contests as well as in your local and district contests. So with that, I'd just like
Before
to take
we go on to
yes.
before we go on to Lois, I've got a poll that I've been asked to launch. So I'm going to launch the poll, and then we'll go through it. It is, have you attended the World Federation of Rose Society event? So go ahead and please respond. All right, looks like we're done. We got 79%. Oh, we're up to 80.
That's great. And it looks like it's staying kind of constant at this point. We're at 82% of the vote.
Yes.
18% of the individuals have attended a World Federation event. So our next speaker is Lois Ann Helgeson, and Lois Ann, she is the district director for the North Central District, which is the district that I'm in. And I don't remember when I met Lois Ann either, but I'm sure it's been probably 30 years plus. She is an incredible rose arranger, and I have learned tons and tons of things from her. And she has like the most incredible garden in Minnesota. So if you think you can't grow roses in cold places, Lois Ann can teach you how. But tonight, actually, as a member of the World Federation Committee on Judging, I've asked Lois Ann just to give us a little update on, if you've ever thought about being an international judge, how do you go about that? So I'm really pleased that Lois Ann is able to join us tonight and just talk briefly about what is this international judging thing all about. So I'll turn it over to Lois Ann.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lois Ann Helgeson, and you see my email there if somebody's got any questions. And there's this program that the World Federation of Roses have incorporated, and I will just run down a number of the important points in connection with it. The program has been around at least since 2010. I became a World Federation judge in 2013, 10 years ago. And I can tell you that there aren't all that many people that are on this list that I have in front of me. There's only about 20 international rose judges from the United States, and there are 32 total on this list. The most recent on the list is 2016, but then again, we had COVID come through. So there'll probably be some catching up. And so let's just talk a little bit about some of the requirements. First of all, just trying to move this other out of the way because it's Aha, there it goes. The position of a World Federation Rose Society International Rose Judge is established for the purpose of identifying those individuals qualified to judge international shows as well as local shows. And it also, you get the idea that it implies that these are not only people who are accredited judges, but they're also people who are willing to travel. The second thing is that each individual who wishes to be formally recognized as a World Federation Rose Society International Judge, they need to make application to the chairman of the World Federation Rose Society International Judges Committee through their national member country. And I guess at the moment, that's me. Candidates for this designation should include their credentials of successful completion of a judging school of a member country, as well as experience of actively judging amateur rose shows. There's a processing fee, 15 GBP or Great Britain pounds, and I looked it up and it's about $18.50 in US dollars. So it's pretty much for the badge that you end up getting, as far as I can tell. Since each international rose show has a chairman and a chairman of judges, accredited judges of member countries should inform the chairman of judges during the registration process of the convention that they wish to be considered as a judge in the show. And thinking about that for just a moment, it obviously means that if you're going to register for a convention or a show in another country, you obviously don't just show up at the show and say, hey, I'm going to judge. That's not, obviously in the United States, I don't think there's any one of us who are judges who believe that that's how you get to judge a rose show, even in the United States. So obviously you have to inform somebody that you would like to be considered as a judge. And then we all know that also is something that if you're traveling around the United States, as well as in another country, that if you realize you're going to be in a certain location when there's a rose show, it's possible to contact somebody and say, hey, is there any possibility that I could, join you for the judging? It's a courtesy, and you just absolutely would never show up without getting an approval ahead of time. Okay, I just threw in a few images to do with rose shows that have used international judges. One of the things you're going to notice is that there's a lot of classes and a lot of things that are the same as you see in your shows at home. Sometimes, you'll notice these that they don't use the kinds of staging that we're familiar with. But again, some of the classes are very similar. Look at this, the one in the lower right-hand side there, that's Stages of Bloom. But they all have them all in one vase. And in this particular show, this was considered the best of the show. It's a fascinating thing to do. And also, again, here you'll see classes that you are familiar with that Satish just spoke about. Roses in a Bowl, you'll find them in all kinds of other shows. And then you will find classes that you've never heard of before, like the shadow boxes that Bermuda uses. In Australia, when we had the World Federation convention and rose show there were World Federation judges in attendance. And again, you'll find roses that you haven't seen before, which is fine. It makes it even more fun. Sometimes there'll be balloting in a different way than what you've done before. It's all part of the game, and it's fun. All different exhibits, different kinds of vases sometimes, and the chance to meet and spend time with people from other countries. It's a wonderful experience. Each individual recognized as a World Federation Rose Society International Rose Judge will receive from the World Federation Rose Society a badge stating the designation, which can be worn at the time of judging. And the best thing I can think of to do is to just take a picture of my own. And more recently, and I'm quite sure the majority of people here on this call have seen the book, International Principles of Exhibiting and Judging Roses. And if anybody is interested in becoming a World Federation Rose Society judge, it's a good book to have because it does cover the background of international rose shows, and they introduce you to some classes you haven't seen before. It's a very informative book. And I found that it was available on Amazon for $11.40, not counting shipping. So it is available. And okay, here's just, if you say you get to the point where that you have been accepted to judge in a particular show in some other country, and where international rose judges are present, it's the responsibility of the chairman of judges to convene a meeting to acquaint judges with the details of local practice. In other words, they will point out to you where they see the differences that you may encounter and help you answer questions if you don't understand how a certain class is to be judged. But generally, we're talking about judges who have had a considerable amount of experience, and they have not only just judged in their local rose shows, but generally district shows and national shows, so that they have a background and a comparison in their mind as to the variations that can occur. A register of the World Federation Rose Society accredited international judges is maintained by the chairman of the committee and by the executive director of the World Federation of Rose Societies.